Should we go right into it?
Secret house.
Secret house.
Sexually ambiguous boys.
That's got to stay in there now.
That's staying in. That's staying in
there now.
Your sound check is is now canon.
Man, peace. Welcome back. My name is Mega. I'm in the middle. We've got these guys.
Mega in the middle.
Bro, I don't even know how to do this right now. I'm a little bit hungover, but let's get right into the shit. Today we're reviewing several albums, the first of which is by an MC named Deca. The album is called Smoking Gun, and it's 12 songs long, 32 minutes. You know how I like to do it. I like us to talk about whether or not we know the artist, and there we go. First, so let's talk about that. I actually was a little bit surprised because I'm not familiar with Deca. This was my first time hearing about him and of him.
Me too.
But I just assumed that he would be like within the sphere of conversation when it comes to like my hip hop folks, because he very much is like an underground, independent. He's even like a white rapper. You know what I mean? Like you would think that a lot of people that listen to like Aesop Rock would be like, "Yo, what about Deca?" Just because, you know, like people that like rhyme sayers or some shit like that, right? But I've never heard of the cat, and he's been going like a decade strong. I was looking at his Spotify number, 100,000 listeners a month. Numbers, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so he's doing it, and he's really put the work in and developed a fan base. We've had multiple people in the comments ask us to do this new album by him, and so well, I guess we all just brand new with it then.
Yeah, Shut one in on me.
Yeah. Well, shit. I think this is an independent release. Like, he doesn't have a label, or maybe his label is his, you know what I mean? Maybe he putting it down out of his house or whatever, but.
This is Coal Mine.
Okay.
Coal Mine.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with
Man,
that.
shout out.
Is he from West Virginia or something like that?
I don't know, bro.
Because coal mining, that's like big in West Virginia.
Yeah, true that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Shoot, let's get into it, man. This album, Smoking Gun by Deca. Who wants to give us the first thoughts on it, man? Spade?
Okay.
You want me to start it?
I mean, I can start it. You want me to? Mine's gonna be short. I didn't like dude. Not to say he was a bad rapper. I just didn't like his delivery or his voice. Initially in the group chat, I said he was garbage, and I was wrong for that. That was just me. That was me, like projecting.
I like that. I like that Spade though. I like the classic Spade hot takes.
Yeah.
I think we said it like. I think you said this shit booty.
Yeah, I did. It's booty.
Yeah. But you know, you said that like after you were only like 2 songs.
Yeah, 2 songs in.
2 or 3 songs.
And that's because I liken his voice to a mix between R.A. Rugged Man and Aesop Rock, and it came off kind of generic to me. The beats go hard on this album, like in the turntablism, the throwback to the boom bap. I loved everything about the beats. Him as a lyricist, not bad. He's actually cultivated a good style. His rhyme scheme is actually good. I just don't like his voice.
Yeah.
And it's just me, my preference. I don't really believe in what he's saying. He's talking about a lot of socialist principles and stuff like that, and Marxist principles.
I didn't think so. I thought he was like mad neoliberal with it.
Oh, really?
Kind of like conspiratorial. Like he mentions like the panopticon, which is like Foucault, but let me not cut you off.
Well,
but you just didn't really care what he said.
The point was, I didn't believe him when he was saying the stuff he said. I didn't believe it.
Okay.
I felt like that. I don't know if you really rock with what you're talking about. Contrast to like with Billy Woods, I might not agree with what he's saying, but I believe that he believes everything he's saying to a T. This guy, I'm not even sold, but the beats went hard. That's all I can say.
What do you think about the Blue and the Homeboy? What did you think about the Homeboy Sandman verse?
Oh, he went off.
I like that verse a lot. That's the Sandman I like to hear.
Off.
That's the Sandman I want to hear. But do you want to pick up or?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I think, you know, maybe the best and worst thing I can say about this album is that I enjoyed it. I don't feel like I took away a great deal from it. Everything as far as I was concerned on like a quote-unquote objective level was good. The rhyming is good. The beats are good. The production is good. Like, all of the features are good. It's nice to hear Blue like still around, because he was one of my favorite rappers back in the day. He sounds a little older, a little bigger than he did. Like,
he just came out with the. I was going to ask if you guys want to review it. It's Blue and Fat Lip from the Far Side.
Yeah.
It's a decent album too.
Okay, yeah, word. I'd be down to check that out. I'm a fan of both. I feel like it's a little tropey. Like, it has a lot of that tropes of like, hey, you're listening to hip hop from the mid-late 90s.
Yes.
Like, you know, there's some turntablism on there. There's like flute samples.
Right.
You know, Del the Funky, Homo Sapien, Beastie Boys kind of flute loops and stuff like that. You almost expect to hear this on the soundtrack of like a PlayStation 2 Tony Hawk game in places.
Yeah.
It was cool.
That's kind of the era that it reminded me of too, but I get what you guys are saying. Like, it's a very conventional underground hip hop album that, you know, the turntablism's there, the samples, the skits, they're broken up really well. The production is super, how would you describe it, Spade? Like, very proficient. He's good at producing, you know what I mean? Like, it does all the things that you need it to do.
It does when he's doing.
Yeah.
You cannot say they're
clean.
bad,
Yeah.
but they're not miraculous or stand out either.
Sure.
They're just like, okay, good beat, good turntable.
I think when I'm talking about tropes as well, like a lot of the skits and the kind of vocal samples, it's that very classic, like, we're gonna sample some like transatlantic English 1950s American, like, and then on this day we found that, you know, it's got that kind of.
There's like a Gregory
immediately-
Corso sample on there too.
Right, Corso.
Poetry type of
Poetry.
shit.
It's mandatory these days, right?
And you know, I appreciate that it doesn't come across as overly forced or pseudo-intellectual. I think for the most part, like, it all kind of fits together nicely enough. I agree that it's neoliberal, but I do think, you know, that it's in the right direction as far as, you know, what rappers are espousing ideologically are going for. Yeah, it was cool to me. I think there's going to be a lot of people who would really, really love this record who listen to our channel.
Yeah, I like the guy, but the music got a little bit. I didn't care to listen to it all the way at once. Like, I'd go back to tracks because his voice and delivery, it is kind of very
annoying, man.
kind of flat spoken style, but he is super dope at rapping. The way that he paints images, I would definitely recommend him to anybody that listen to Aesop Rock. I just
100%.
you know,
Would you though?
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, well, because most of the people that listen to Aesop Rock is like the same people that listen to like Doom, and they look for stuff like this. And it's like they a lot of cats that I think listen to Aesop are cats that don't really like hip hop music. Like,
I don't know if this is as ambitious as Aesop Rock
Sure.
can be. I mean, I got a lot of shit for not particularly liking Garbology for that reason. I think it's one of his less ambitious records. But like, if you're into that and you don't mind that the production's a little less cutting edge than what Blockhead is doing, you know, it's a little more traditional, sample oriented, turntables, boom bap drums. There's a lot to like here.
I do think that like his rapping is really, really interesting and solid. He's got several bars on here and creates like different imagery that I appreciate, and I thought it was kind of like, oh, that's a really interesting way to look at it. I think the album, I was wondering what his other work is like, because this album is very much just like, it reminds me, you said PS2, it reminds me of the Bush era of underground hip hop artists who all had things to say about politics and had all of these thoughts about politics, but weren't really saying anything particular. Like, he diagnoses all of the symptoms of the problems in the world right now. He has bars about gentrification. He has bars about, you know, the elites, the eye on the pyramid. He has all these things that he's talking about, but I don't really know what the fuck he diagnoses the symptoms, but he doesn't actually say what can be done about it or what his political ideology is towards making those things better.
It's almost like he just wanted to say some stuff that fit in today and sound cool. Once again, that's why I say I don't really believe him. Which, look, that's just my preference, and I would not recommend any Aesop fans to this guy, because to me it came off as a generic ripoff of Aesop. For me,
like
personally.
a great value Aesop Rock.
Definitely great
Like
value
RC
with the Pride
Cola.
ice cream and the Juneteenth ice cream.
What was it? Aesop Yacht Rock? Aesop Yacht Rock?
I get it, although I do think that's like a little unfair on Deca, because the reality is like, Aesop Rock, even as someone who's not really a fan of Aesop Rock, that guy's really, really good at rapping.
Yeah.
Like, he may be one of the best at
I
rapping. So if you're like a very good rapper, you might, and you're doing something similar to what Aesop Rock is doing, you're still gonna come across like coming
Great
a little
value
short,
Aesop
right?
Rock, yeah.
And that's
they say the same thing about Prem Rock,
right?
Who's really good at what he does too.
On the
but
Occam's Blazer,
they compare him to Aesop as well. But
and yeah, I think that's a little unfair. I think
sure.
Deca does have his own style. I think he's dope with it.
Yeah.
You know, because ultimately being that good is not something that's imitable.
Sure.
You know, it's like you still need to actually have the like intelligence and lyrical dexterity to put bars together and paint some of the images that he paints on this album.
Yeah.
You can't just like, I'm gonna try and sound like Aesop
A$AP
Rock.
Rock.
Like,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
doesn't quite work that way. So
he's really good. I don't mean to disparage the man.
Same here.
I think
You
it's
can
a little. I think it's a little bit funny, that take, and I can see how somebody would come to it, and I respect your opinion about that. But I do actually like the guy. I would like to listen to an album of his that is not so politically centered, because I just wasn't getting much out of this other than things that I heard people talking about Bush, and to a lot of the things, to me it comes across as like that conspiratorial neoliberalism that, fucking all of the fucking eye in the pyramid type of elites type of conversations that I just don't care. But there are bars on this shit that I was like, wow, I will put that in my pocket for later to describe something that's dope too. And the production on it is also
Great.
works really
Top
well.
notch.
The thing is like they break up the album with interludes and stuff, and I just think it's a really well thought out, put together album. On Hive of Industry, towards the back end of that,
that's a great track.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out where I knew the last sample part from, and Bus Driver actually uses that on Species of Property on the Thumbs album, which is one of my favorite Bus Driver songs, so check that out if you're into that beat.
My biggest issue with Hive of Industry is I'd have liked to have heard him like rapping over it, because if it had been like someone like Odyssey, like, it's in 5/4 or whatever, I'll rap over that, and I feel like he would have been dope on that. And honestly, maybe my biggest problem with the album is that I can hear my dream Deca album when I listen to it. There is a really, really phenomenally good Deca album in my mind playing while I listen to this album. And it's just all of those skills put over something weirder and a little more ambitious and experimental.
Sure.
I would love to hear him rapping over weird time
actually
signatures. I
probably
would
got
love to
something
hear
there.
him rapping over like, some
I
more
agree with that.
synthy production or some stranger like samples than just kind of like a pretty flute loop or something like that. It would be really, really dope, I think, to hear Deca, doing a Spirit World Field Guide or Impossible Kid type thing.
It reminds me that the song Flight Path, where they use kind of that funky break, and it's kind of like a more up tempo, almost like a b-boy cut.
It's very four elements.
Yeah, and he's got there's a sample, a feature on there by a cat named like Ichiban, who is proficient and comes well enough too. But I really like kind of the cadence that Deca uses on that, because it breaks up the monotony of his regular flow, which is kind of a spoken flat style, and he kind of puts a little bit more of a swing on it. And I would like to see him challenged by some beats that were less conventional and didn't just push me back to when Galapagos 4 was like, all those cats were just talking about George W. Bush, because I get a lot of that from this album without it really saying anything to me about that.
Presentation was kind of off for me. I agree with you, Jet, now that you mentioned that. Had I got presented this in a different format over some unconventional beats, I probably would have thought a bit better. Also, it probably could have broke up his monotonous flow, like you said. It could have made his flow and his cadence a little bit more challenging, because the way he delivered this right here, to me, it got boring really quick.
Word. If for the listeners, like, we're all brand new to Deca, so if you have like an album that you think better displays, his work and his talent, like, put me on, because I will go back to listen to it. But man, the way that we be reviewing albums, it feel like we got homework every week. You know what I mean? Like, it feel like I don't really have an opportunity a lot of times to go back to listen to other cats' albums. I might be listening to some other genres instead. So yeah, man, I really do appreciate this album. It was an okay introduction for Deca, for me, from Deca, and I'll go check him out in the future. But I would rate this album like a 6. Like, I think it's just a strong, good, well album that doesn't really impress me, or I don't think it's trying to really like.
It's definitely not trying
that.
to. No,
so
it's not.
Yeah, like,
It's
yeah,
not trying to
man,
impress you, no.
a well put together album is something to be proud of. I rock with it.
Yeah, a high 6 or low 7 for me, I'd say. Go ahead, Scott.
Album, it's a 5. And that had to come to the 5. Like, when I first heard this, I was not impressed. But after listening to it a couple more times, I'm like, all right, this is not bad. Just not good either. 5.
I feel like a 5 is for me, I couldn't give something like this a 5 because none of it is mediocre to me.
Yeah.
I don't think that Deca is mediocre in any respect. I didn't particularly love this record. It's probably not going to be anywhere near my end of the year list. But as far as like what he does and the level he's doing it at, like I think he's pretty solid across the board. I'm definitely Team
Agreed.
Deca now. I'm a fan now.
Question though,
Agree.
did you
Sure.
think that maybe that you've heard all of this stuff he's doing before, like multiple times?
Yes.
And would you not like deviate some, take some away some points for that? Because like I feel like this is an album that's been done 9 million times.
Not to get bogged down in numerical ratings, because I've made it very clear my opinion on those on the show. But to me, a 5 is mediocre. It's middle of the road, right?
I'll call it
Anything below
mediocre.
a 5 is subpar in some respect,
Right.
and anything above it is above like that baseline middle for me. And if I'm gonna look at it in that respect, this album can't be a 5.
Okay.
That's just
Yeah, I
that's
feel
just how I'm seeing it. Like,
Fair enough.
I think Deca is too dope to be dismissed as mediocre.
I like that our number ratings and the way that we have like greatest album ever album and trash work, but when it comes down to it, like the numerical ratings are my least
It's
favorite part of our
arbitrary.
recordings.
Yeah.
It's mostly about the conversation between us and how we feel and how, so yeah, Deca man forever.
You can't say forever. You can't do that.
Hit the, what,
Can't
what,
do that.
no, okay, well, I gotta. Can we just start taking Fantano's whole thing entirely? What did you say? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How would you rate it? Hit the like if you like. Hit the bell as well. Fucking
I
some
don't
shit.
know.
Yeah.
Secret Thinny House Tano here.
Yeah.
The internet's Tokyoist guys.
Right.
Tokyo's
Like,
guys.
comment, subscribe. Deca fans, let us know what's up. Please share. And yeah, man, we'll be back.
Peace. Fuck the whole right.